James Wilson knelt on the scuffed hardwood floor of his modest Asheville apartment, his rough hands gently tying the laces of his daughter's sneakers. Lily, his 8-year-old, stood quietly, her small frame dwarfed by a faded purple backpack. Her blonde curls swayed as she shifted her weight, but her green eyes, once sparkling with wonder, held a shadow James couldn't ignore. Fear, perhaps, or a quiet sorrow. It had been growing for weeks, a gnawing unease that kept him awake at night. "Ready for school, kiddo?" James asked, mustering a smile as he tucked a curl behind her ear. His voice was warm, but his heart felt heavy. Lily had always been his light, filling their small home with tales of art projects and playground games. But recently her chatter had faded, replaced by long silences and anxious glances. Lily didn't respond. Her hands gripped her backpack straps, knuckles pale. She stared at the floor, avoiding his eyes, and James felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He'd been her everything since her mother, Anna, died 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him to raise Lily alone in a town where the Blue Ridge Mountains' beauty masked the struggles of families like theirs. He worked grueling hours at a local garage, barely keeping them afloat in Asheville's working-class corner. "Lily, what's wrong?" James's voice softened, his hands resting on her shoulders. "You can tell me anything." Her lips quivered, and for a moment he thought she'd open up. Instead, she pressed herself against him, her face buried in his plaid shirt. "Can I stay home today, Daddy?" Her voice was a faint murmur, lost in his chest. James's heart sank. Lily used to love school. Grove Park Elementary, a public school in their neighborhood, had been her sanctuary, where she'd come home with vibrant drawings and stories about friends. Now, she dreaded it. "Are you sick, honey, or did something happen?" He lifted her chin, searching her eyes. Lily shook her head, her gaze skittering away. A tear slid down her cheek, quickly wiped away as if she were ashamed. "It's nothing. I'll go." But it wasn't nothing. James saw it in her tense shoulders and how she clung to her old stuffed rabbit, a gift from Anna she'd outgrown until recently. He opened the car door, watching her climb into the back seat, her silence louder than words. As he drove through Asheville's modest streets, past small homes and corner markets, Lily stared out the window, her reflection pale and distant. At the school gate, James parked and turned to her. "Lily, if something's wrong, I need you to tell me. You're my whole world, you know that, right?" She bit her lip, her eyes flickering with something unsaid. "Daddy, if I'm not good, will you still love me?" The question struck him like a blow. He pulled her into his arms, her small body trembling. "Lily, you're the best part of my life. I'll always love you, no matter what." She buried her face in his chest, her voice breaking. "I'm scared, Daddy." "Of what?" he asked, holding her tighter. But Lily only shook her head, pulling away and darting toward the school gate before he could stop her. James sat frozen in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel. Something was terribly wrong, and he was failing her by not knowing what. That evening, after picking Lily up, James noticed her face was paler, her eyes red-rimmed. She barely spoke, picking at her dinner and glancing nervously at the window. Later, as he tucked her into bed, he found a drawing hidden under her pillow. A little girl alone in a jagged scribble of shadows, with "I'm scared" written in shaky crayon. James's chest tightened. He kissed Lily's forehead, whispering, "I'll keep you safe, I promise." But as he left her room, his resolve hardened. He couldn't wait for answers. In his cramped living room, he dug out a small recording device he'd used for work notes. It was tiny, easily concealed in Lily's backpack. It felt wrong, maybe even illegal, but if something was hurting his daughter, he had to know. Tomorrow, he'd uncover the truth, no matter the cost. James Wilson sat at the kitchen table, the dim light of a single bulb casting long shadows. His hands shook as he held the recording device he'd hidden in Lily's backpack that morning. All day, he'd been a mess, barely able to focus at the garage, his mind flooded with worst-case fears. What was happening to his little girl? The weight of not knowing was heavier than the grief he'd carried since losing Anna. Lily was asleep now, curled under her blankets, clutching her stuffed rabbit, but James couldn't rest, not until he had answers. He plugged the device into his laptop, his pulse racing. The audio file loaded. 6 hours of muffled sounds, kids' chatter, chair scrapes, lesson drones from Grove Park Elementary. Then, a woman's voice sliced through, cold and sharp. "Lily Wilson, stand up." It was Mrs. Susan Clark, Lily's new teacher, her tone icy. James's stomach twisted as he heard a chair creak followed by silence. "You're useless," Mrs. Clark snapped. "Can't even read properly. You think tears will make me soft?" A sharp slap echoed, followed by Lily's choked sob. "I'm sorry, please don't hurt me," she whispered, her voice tiny and broken. James's fists clenched, nails biting into his palms. He wanted to storm into that classroom and protect his daughter, but the recording continued, each word a knife. "No one will love a girl like you," Mrs. Clark sneered. "Keep quiet, or I'll tell everyone your father's a failure. The police will take him away and you'll end up in a home for unwanted kids. Want that, Lily?" A long pause. Then, Lily's trembling voice, "No." "Good. Sit down and stop crying." The recording fell silent, but James's world shattered. He replayed the slap, the threats, Lily's desperate pleas. Tears streamed down his face as he pictured his bright, kind-hearted girl cowering under that woman's cruelty. He stumbled to Lily's room, her drawing still in his hand. The dark scribbles and "I'm scared" now made horrifying sense. He sank beside her bed, watching her sleep, her face etched with worry, even in dreams. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I didn't know." The next morning, James called his best friend Thomas, a delivery driver who'd been his anchor since Anna's death. They met at a diner on Asheville's outskirts where locals swapped stories over cheap coffee. Thomas listened as James shared the recording, his face darkening. "That's abuse, plain and simple," Thomas said, slamming his mug down. "You've got to act, man." "I want to," James said, his voice raw. "But Clark's got connections, school board, maybe higher. You know how it works here. People like me don't get heard. Families like ours are invisible." Thomas leaned forward, eyes steady. "You're not invisible to me, and Lily's not to you. That's enough to start." James nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Asheville's school system was tangled with politics and privilege. Families like his, barely scraping by, rarely won against those in power. He'd seen parents speak out before, only to face threats or job loss. But Lily's sobs echoed in his mind, fueling a fire he couldn't ignore. At home, James sat with Lily at breakfast. She poked at her cereal, eyes downcast. "Good day at school yesterday?" he asked gently. Lily shrugged, her voice faint. "It was okay." Her hands gripped her shirt, betraying her fear. James's heart ached. He wanted to tell her he knew, to promise he'd fix it. But he needed a plan. That evening, James found Emily Davis's contact online, a local journalist known for exposing Asheville's corruption. He sent her a message with the recording. "My daughter's being hurt," he wrote. "I need help." As he hit send, hope flickered, tangled with fear. What if Clark's connections were too strong? What if he lost Lily? He looked at her drawing again, the girl trapped in shadows, and vowed to bring her back to the light. James Wilson sat across from Emily Davis in a bustling Asheville coffee shop, the clink of cups fading as he poured out his story. Lily's fear, the chilling recording, Mrs. Clark's threats. He played the audio, Lily's sobs cutting through the air. James's throat tightened. He couldn't meet Emily's gaze, afraid she'd see his tears. "This is serious, James," Emily said, her voice steady but urgent. "Clark's tied to the school board, maybe local officials. They protect their own here. But this recording, it's powerful." She paused, eyes narrowing. "If we move forward, expect pushback. They won't go quietly." James nodded, his mind racing. He was just a mechanic, scraping by in a town where wealthier residents held sway. Asheville's charm hid a harsh truth. The system favored the powerful, leaving families like his voiceless. I don't care what it takes, he said, voice firm. Lily's suffering. I can't let that continue. Emily scribbled in her notebook. I'll dig deeper, but we need more than the recording. Other parents, witnesses, anyone who's seen Clark's behavior. Can you talk to them? James's heart sank. He'd already tried. That afternoon, he'd met Amy Carter, a single mother whose son Noah was in Lily's class. They spoke outside the school, Amy's eyes darting nervously. I know Clark's harsh, she whispered. Noah's come home upset, saying she calls him stupid, but James, I can't get involved. Noah's on a scholarship wait list. If I speak out, they could take it away. Her words stung. James saw his own fear in her, parents trapped by a system that punished dissent. What about Noah? He pressed. What if she's hurting him too? Amy's eyes welled up. I'm all he's got. I can't risk it. She turned away, leaving James with his frustration. Later, he met Laura Martinez, another parent, at a playground near the school. Laura, a night shift cleaner supporting her daughter Isabella, broke down. Clark called Isabella trash because we live in a trailer park, she said, voice trembling. Isabella stopped singing at home. But if I fight, I could lose my job. The school board, they know people. James's chest ached. He saw Lily in Isabella, another child crushed, silenced by fear. We can't let her keep doing this, he said, voice shaking. Not to our kids. Laura wiped her tears, hands trembling. I want to help, James, but I'm scared. I've got nothing to fall back on. She hugged him briefly, a gesture of shared pain, before walking away. Back at the coffee shop, James recounted this to Emily, his voice heavy. They're all afraid, he said. And I get it. I'm scared too. What if I go public and Clark targets Lily? What if they take her away? Losing Lily, the only piece of Anna he had left, was unthinkable. Emily leaned forward, eyes steady. You're not alone, James. This recording is a start, but we need others to speak out. If enough do, they can't ignore us. She softened. Lily's lucky to have you. Most kids don't have someone fighting like this. James thought of Lily's drawing, the girl lost in shadows. He couldn't let her stay there. What's next? He asked, voice steadier. Emily closed her notebook. We go public, an article, maybe a radio interview. But you decide, James. Are you ready for the risk? James pictured Lily's tear-streaked face, her trembling voice saying, I'm scared. He nodded, jaw set. For Lily? I'm ready. James Wilson's hands trembled as he stared at Emily Davis's email in his Asheville apartment. Her article, exposing Mrs. Susan Clark's abuse at Grove Park Elementary, had just gone live. Teachers' cruelty targets students, a father's stand for justice. The audio of Clark's venom, venerating Lily, slapping her, threatening to destroy her family, was public. James's heart raced with fear and resolve, no turning back. The response was swift. His phone buzzed with texts from shocked and angry parents. Some left voicemails, voices trembling with gratitude or fear. But backlash hit hard. An unknown caller left a chilling message. Back off, Wilson, or you'll regret it. James's blood ran cold, but Lily's sobs from the recording echoed in his mind. He couldn't stop. That evening, Lily sat at the kitchen table, crayons scattered. Unlike her shadowy drawing, this one showed two figures, a man and a girl, under a bright sun with "Me and Daddy, safe," scrawled in her handwriting. She looked up, green eyes trusting. Daddy, will you make the bad stuff stop? She asked softly. James knelt beside her, throat tight. I'm trying, kiddo. I promise. He brushed a curl from her face. You believe me, right? Lily nodded, handing in the drawing. For you, she said, because you're my hero. Her words hit like a wave, fueling his resolve. He hugged her, fighting tears. This wasn't just for Lily. It was for every child Clark had hurt, every parent too scared to speak. The next day, James faced his biggest test. Emily had organized an emergency meeting at Grove Park's gymnasium with parents, teachers, and the principal, William Harris. James walked in, palms sweaty, the recording device in his pocket. The room crackled with tension. Parents whispered, some avoiding his gaze, others nodding in support. Harris stood at the front, his face a mask of calm, while Clark sat beside him, eyes cold and defiant. Harris cleared his throat. "We're here to address these allegations," he said, voice skeptical. "Let's keep this civil. The school takes such matters seriously." James's blood boiled. "Civil?" He stepped forward, voice steady despite his fear. "My daughter's been abused, threatened, hit, by her." He pointed at Clark, whose lips twisted into a smirk. "And you've done nothing." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harris raised a hand. "Mr. Wilson, these are grave claims. Do you have proof?" James pulled out his phone, hands steady. Everyone needs to hear this. He played the recording, and the gym fell silent as Clark's voice rang out. Cruel, tearing into Lily. Parents gasped, some covered their mouths. Amy Carter, who'd hesitated before, clutched Noah's hand, tears falling. Laura Martinez stood, voice shaking. "My Isabella endured the same," she said. "She called my girl worthless. I was too scared to speak, but not now." The room erupted. Parents shouted, demanding answers. Harris's composure cracked, his face pale. Clark stood, voice shrill. "This is slander. That recording's fake." But her words were drowned out. Then a new voice cut through. A trembling teenage girl, a former student of Clark, stepped forward holding her phone. "I have proof too," she said, voice breaking. "She pushed me last year, called me names. I recorded it." She played a clip, Clark's voice venomous, berating her. The crowd gasped again, the air electric with outrage. James's heart surged. This was the climax of their fight, a moment where the truth broke free. James locked eyes with Harris. "You knew," he said, voice cutting. "You protected her. How many kids suffered because of you?" Harris stammered, but the parents weren't listening. Amy stepped forward, voice firm. "My Noah was terrified to come to school. I thought it was my fault." "It's hers," she pointed at Clark. "And yours," she added, glaring at Harris. Laura joined her, then others. The gym became a chorus of voices, parents, once silenced, now united. James felt hope surge, but also dread. Clark's connections ran deep, and Harris's influence lingered. The fight wasn't over. As the meeting ended, Laura pulled James aside, eyes shining. "Thank you," she whispered. "For Isabella. For us all." James nodded, throat tight. Outside, parents planned a protest to demand Clark's suspension. James looked at Lily's drawing in his jacket, her trust fueling him. He'd started this for her, but it was bigger now, a fight for every child in shadows. James Wilson sat on his couch, the hum of Asheville's evening traffic filtering through the walls. His phone buzzed with messages, supportive parents, strangers moved by Emily's article, but an anonymous text chilled him. "You're digging your grave, Wilson. Stop." Fear gripped him, not for himself, but for Lily, asleep with her rabbit. The fight had ignited the community, but it had stirred a darker force protecting Clark. Emily's article revealed more than Clark's abuse. Her investigation exposed a rotten system at Grove Park. Low-income students like Lily and Isabella were overlooked, denied opportunities, or harshly punished, while wealthier kids were favored. James saw it clearly. Clark's cruelty was part of a machine that silenced the vulnerable. Families like his were expected to stay quiet, their children's pain dismissed. James's resolve wavered as he thought of Lily's drawing, the sunlit figures. Could he keep her safe? He pulled out a faded letter from Anna, written before her death. "James, teach Lily to be brave, even when the world feels too big. Protect her, but show her how to stand tall." His eyes stung as he traced her words, a lifeline pulling him back. He folded the letter, vowing to honor her. Emily called that evening, voice urgent. "James, I found a video from a former student, secretly recorded in Clark's class. It shows her shoving a boy, screaming at him. I'm sending it to the paper tonight. This could force police action." James's heart raced. Will it be enough? the school board stalling. "It's a start," Emily said. "The community's with you. Parents are organizing online, more are coming forward. You're not alone." James hung up, mind spinning. The video was a breakthrough, but the threat lingered. He checked on Lily, her peaceful breathing a contrast to his inner storm. He couldn't shake her trembling voice on the recording, begging forgiveness she didn't owe. No child should live in fear. The next day, James met Emily at her cluttered office. She showed him the video, a grainy clip of Clark striking a boy's shoulder, shouting, "You're nothing." The boy flinched, eyes terrified. James's stomach churned. "It could have been Lily. This goes public tomorrow," Emily said. "But brace yourself. Clark's allies will hit back." That night, James sat with Lily as she drew, her crayons moving slowly. "What's this one?" he asked, smiling. Lily looked up, eyes brighter than in weeks. "It's us, Daddy. And Isabella and Noah, too. We're happy." The drawing showed 4 figures holding hands surrounded by flowers. James's heart swelled, but it also broke. Lily was clinging to hope. "I'm proud of you," he said, voice thick. "You're so strong, Lily." She hugged him, arms tight. "You're strong too, Daddy. You're fixing things." Her trust pushed him forward. The video hit the news, sparking outrage across Asheville. Social media exploded, with calls for Clark's arrest and Harris's resignation. Parents shared stories, kids humiliated, dreams crushed by a system valuing connections over justice. The school board claimed the video was out of context, hinting at legal action against James. Another anonymous call came, "You'll lose everything, Wilson." James's hands shook as he set the phone down. He looked at Lily's drawing on the fridge, a symbol of her hope. Anna's letter echoed, "Teach her to be brave." He wouldn't back down. For Lily, Isabella, every silenced child, he'd fight until the truth prevailed. James Wilson stood outside Grove Park Elementary, the morning sun casting long shadows across the schoolyard. Weeks of protests, articles, and shared stories had shaken Asheville, forcing action. Mrs. Susan Clark had been arrested, charged with child abuse based on the recording and video evidence. Principal William Harris had been replaced, his resignation buried in a vague school board statement. But for James, the fight wasn't just about punishment. It was about giving Lily and others a future free from fear. The school hosted a community fair, organized by parents to celebrate healing and unity. Lily stood by a booth, proudly displaying her artwork, a vibrant scene of children laughing under a rainbow with "We Are Brave" in bold crayon. James stood nearby, his heart full as he watched her explain her drawing to a group of parents. Her green eyes sparkled, no longer shadowed by fear. Lily ran to him, holding a small paper heart she'd crafted. "This is for you, Daddy," she said, voice clear, "because you made me feel safe again." She paused, then added, "And you help my friends too." James knelt, throat tight, and took the heart. "You're my hero, Lily," he said, voice breaking. "You're the bravest girl I know." The crowd around them buzzed with warmth. Parents like Amy Carter and Laura Martinez mingled, their children, Noah and Isabella, playing nearby, their laughter a stark contrast to weeks past. James had co-founded a parent advocacy group with Emily's help, pushing for reforms at Grove Park. The new principal, a former teacher with a reputation for fairness, had pledged to prioritize all students, regardless of background. But James knew the system wasn't fully fixed. Inequalities lingered, favoring wealthier families. Yet, the community's unity was a foundation. Parents now met weekly, sharing stories and demanding accountability, ensuring no child's pain was ignored. That evening, James and Lily sat on their apartment's worn porch, watching the Blue Ridge Mountains glow in the sunset. Lily leaned against him, her paper heart tucked in his pocket. "Daddy, I'm not scared anymore," she said, her voice steady. James kissed her forehead, eyes misty. "You're my brave girl, Lily. Always." He thought of Anna's letter, urging him to teach Lily courage. He'd done that, not just for her, but for a community that had rallied together. The fight had transformed James. Once an invisible mechanic, he was now a voice for the voiceless. The system hadn't collapsed, but its cracks let light through. Justice wasn't just arrests. It was Lily's smile, Isabella's song, Noah's laughter, parents standing united. As Lily sketched a new drawing, children playing in sunlight, James felt Anna's presence, her words fulfilled. The community fair had sparked a new tradition, an annual event where kids shared art and stories of resilience. James vowed to keep fighting, not just for Lily, but for every child who'd felt trapped in shadows. The lesson was clear. One voice, fueled by love and courage, could ripple through a community, breaking silence and building hope. For Lily, for Asheville, the fight for justice would continue, one brave step at a time.